The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Scabies Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work there, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Scabies Radio.
Scabies. Scabies.
Radio.
Scabies. Scabies.
Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
Into the silo.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Hey, welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show. It is the 6th of August, 2014. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the exceptional one, Ken McClinton, for throwing it over to us here on the SHR Media Network. Make sure you check out shrmedia.com. All of our great writers, all of our great broadcasters, and more to come as we go. We appreciate you all. 9 o'clock tonight, it's going to be Miller time. Jason Miller is going to give us a news brief at the top of the hour. He's also had an interview earlier that we're going to replay that you have to listen to regarding the border crisis. We are going to discuss the border later on tonight. Off to my right, as always, is the
awesome.
Awesome.
Oh,
I was going to say
fantastic.
Perfect example of a face for radio.
Perfect example of a
face for
of an
radio.
individual.
Face for radio.
Oh yeah, that too, that too, or pictures,
We thank
or
you.
movies.
Sitting across is our producer and sound man extraordinaire, Sacco. That's all Sacco will be allowed to say this evening while he's in the cage. Thank you so much for everyone to join us in chat roll. If you're listening on shrmedia.com, go ahead and join us in chat roll. Just click on the button and jump on in. We're also live on the Live 365 app, so you can get us any way you want us. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm tired.
Why?
I'm tired. I have a delicious cup of caffeine.
Yes.
Right here. I had the most delicious thing the other night, and I was talking to you about this because as I was falling asleep during pre-production, because Sacco was boring me with some story. I don't even know what he was talking about. But I had a coffee bomb.
You did.
And it's
not like the bad bombs.
Right. Well, is there such a thing? There is. Look, it was delicious. So I walked. I've been burning the candle at like all 5 ends, and I can show you all 5 ends here later if you want to know what that is. And I was told, you look horrible by this coffee server person. I don't even know what they're called. I refuse to call them a barista.
Your mom serves coffee?
Sacco's mom.
Oh, okay.
So
she said you looked horrible. Go on.
Right. And she was hairier than Sacco, which was weird. That's Sacco crying because we're making fun of him. And I need a quick pick me up. I'm going to have an iced coffee. And he said, try a coffee bomb. And I said, okay.
Right.
I mean,
who are you to argue?
Who am I to argue? Listen, I like
people that don't know. You very rarely step outside of your comfort zone. Very, very rarely. It's one of those things like if we're going to try to eat somewhere different, and you and I go to dinner a lot, we go to coffee a lot, we go to the same places. For you to even step outside your comfort zone is a big deal.
It is.
You are very much a person that you know it, you like it, you're keeping it. So I am amazed that a barista that you don't know
right
was able to get you to try something that simply.
I'd talk to this guy. I'm a regular where I go in there, and it's one of the places that I go. And he's seen me a couple times, and so it's not like it was a cold relationship.
Oh, stop trying to make it more than what it was. You stepped out. It's fine.
No, I did step out.
Okay.
I'm not arguing.
Go with your
Listen,
story.
why do you have to point out when I do something different?
Because it happens so rarely.
It does.
It's like Haley's freaking comet.
So I said, okay, and he takes this cup, and it was like the medium-sized cup or whatever, and he fills it up halfway with iced coffee. Not with ice, just with the iced coffee, so it's cold. And he drops a shot of espresso in it. And then I had to chug
Mind
it.
blown. Mind blown.
It was so
now,
good.
Even though,
and he put like a little bit of vanilla or whatever in it, but it was so good.
This is the part that amazes me, though.
Yeah.
Even though I've seen you in action.
Right.
And like, if I want you to try and do beer or something like that, you're very heshitant. So for you,
I know what I like.
Right. For you to do that to me, good on you. I'm glad you actually stepped out. That's amazing. I'm just blown away by it. I am blown away by it.
It was good. So and then I told you, look, I'll buy you one. We need to try this.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
I've since gone into a couple other, same store, just different location, and they said, "What's that?" I don't like. One location knew what it was, so I've had to, and everybody I've told is.
So now you're pretty much like the hipster at these coffee shops. You're like educating others. You're like, yeah, I was doing coffee bombs when it was underground.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I just kind of a trendsetter. It's weird. I actually have like a French beret that I have to wear, like kind of cocked to the side when I walk in now. You've seen that, right?
I love the fact that you carry the
with my flip flops and my "Don't Tread on Me" shirt. So it's kind of weird that I have a French beret on with that
and a white flag, just
and a white
flag. The French beret,
right? Now we didn't know if we were going to be talking this week.
We didn't.
It went out on Twitter.
Big baseball news, and listen, we have a huge show coming up, so stick with us for a minute. Earlier in the week, there was a big trade on Thursday, actually, the night after we did our show, as usual, between the Red Sox and Oakland. And the Oakland A's got John Lester, who's one of my favorite left-handed pitchers and was a stud for the Red Sox and the A's, for the remainder of the season. Then his contract's up. In return, the Boston Red Sox got Cespedes, their slugger, essentially, who's tied up through 2015.
Yes.
But I was very hesitant. There's a lot of other trades that were made for the Red Sox that some were great, some were not. But this was the one that scared me the most. And I'll tell you why. I've seen this happen. Listen, Lester loves being in Boston. He first of all, the guy's all class. He took out a whole-page article in every Boston newspaper to say thank you to the fans of the city for supporting him. He's all accounts that I know who know John Lester said that he is that genuine in person. He's a quiet kid, kind of a shy kid, but a very gracious and giving kid.
Right.
All the great work that he's done for cancer research and everything. I mean, the guy is just an all-around good dude. But it made me nervous because I'm always afraid that at the end of the trade or at the end of the season, when it's time for him to say he's going to re-sign with the Red Sox, and he may.
And he may, because Oakland can't afford to keep him.
Right. Historically, Oakland won't pay that amount of money. I'm always afraid the Yankees are going to step in and really just piss me off even more. So, other than that, though, it was a good trade. Listen, I have no problem with Cespedes. He's a good young kid. I think each side's getting what they need out of it, and I think that's awesome. But there was question last Thursday as to whether or not we were going to fight.
There was, and we almost did.
We almost did.
Via text. Because I remember the conversation was, okay, you download your version of Punch-Out, I'm going to download my version of Punch-Out, and we'll play online. It's go time.
But we'll see what happens. So, other than that, it was a good week. I had a great week. I was able to get away with the family this past weekend and go camping, and that's always a blast. So I was happy about that, and I'm happy to be back here. Not happy about some of the topics that we have to cover tonight, just because what it is.
Right.
And I am happy, and we're going to talk about it in the show, but later on. But I have an insider story from the attack in Afghanistan. A close personal friend of mine, who he's given me permission to tell some of his story. I have to withhold a lot of it just because of classified investigation, etc. But so that'll be.
And he didn't tell you that part.
No, gosh, no, he wouldn't dare. So, but other than that, we have a whole bunch to talk about tonight. Dartmouth, criminal alien kids. We got to talk about hit the border. 9:00. We do have Jason Miller. It's Miller time. We're going to talk about the house and the border, the Afghan incident, and that'll bring us into the top of the hour. Maybe a few phone calls. I know it's lovely to see Rooster back in chat. We've missed him so much.
We have missed him.
He's just I just can't seem to quit him. So we're glad, and everyone else who's joined us on the chat this evening, we are very, very glad to have you with us. Help? We're glad to help. We like helping.
You like helping a lot.
So, right off the bat, you brought up a story I had not heard, and I was glad you did. It's about a young Dartmouth student. First and foremost, you first said Dartmouth, and I had to correct you because that's just not how it's pronounced.
No, how's it spelled?
It's Dartmouth.
It's what?
Dahtmath.
Dartmouth.
Okay?
Okay.
Dartmouth student. But expand on that. Expand on the story for me, please, because this is amazing. Folks, when we tell you that more and more it's harder and harder to protect yourself, it's stories like this that really concern me. Over to you, Clint.
Oh, is it my turn? Listen, I was actually, if you noticed what I was... Yeah. Huh. Okay, so this Dartmouth student... what's wrong with that? She's from San Diego, and I saw this this story on Fox News. I think they even broke the story at FoxNews.com. She's 20 years old. Taylor Woolrich is her name. She's a junior at Dartmouth, and she has a stalker, like a legitimate stalker. When she was 16 years old, she worked at this coffee shop in San Diego. And a guy, Richard Bennett is his name, 67 years old, began stalking her, following her home, trying to get her attention, demanding basically that she stay and talk to him. He said he was
demanding.
Quote,
I love that.
Quote, trying to protect her. Ultimately, she got a restraining order from the courts, and that only goes so far. This individual continued to violate the restraining order. When she got into Dartmouth, he began contacting her on social media and saying he was I'm going to fly out there to come see you. And she thought that wasn't kind of a big deal. Her quote is, "I thought they were empty threats, but when I came home from school last summer, he was at my front door within 8 hours of my plane landing." And she went on to say, quote, "That's when I realized how serious it was." When they called the police and this individual, Bennett, was arrested, he had with him a knife, gloves, like rope, and a noose. So that's a little scary, right?
That's not regular everyday carry-around items.
That's not for most people.
That's not like a fanny pack, a pack of gum, maybe a Band-Aid, and some hand sanitizer.
Right.
Okay, good.
Right, no, that's
Lord.
So she started to ask questions about, hey, can I get a permit about carrying a concealed weapon? Minimum age in California is 21. There are certain exceptions. According to the licensing division, she spoke with the sheriff's department. They said, yeah, she could qualify. And she also learned, again, that the same exception, she could get that in New Hampshire, which is where the school is located. Mm-hmm. When she talked to the school officials, they told her, no way. You, quote, absolutely not allowed to carry a gun while on campus. She tried to go to several other administrators and so forth. Hey, this is the seriousness of my issue. I'm not safe if he gets released. I think his bond is something like $300,000. And the college wouldn't budge. Hey, no, we have zero tolerance policy. If you're scared, you can contact our college campus security and get an escort to your dorm room after dark. And her whole thing is, well, that's great, but what are they going to do? And I guess she's called for escorts before, and she says, according to her, and we haven't confirmed this obviously, but sometimes security gives her a hard time for calling too much. And look, she's legitimately scared. I mean, this guy shows up to her door within 8 hours of her plane landing back in California, and he's got a rape kit with him. Essentially, right?
Or a murder kit.
Or a murder kit.
Either way, it's not okay.
Either way, it's not good, right? So I love the statement from the college, and FoxNews.com asked for comment, and what they said is They say it's strictly prohibited, and we are not in the habit of making exceptions. This is Justin Anderson, who's the spokesman for Dartmouth, and this is his statement to FoxNews.com. And he says, quote, "But we certainly do everything we possibly can to make all our students feel safe."
Oh, everything, huh?
Let's break this down for a second. So first of all, we certainly do everything we possibly can.
Everything.
That's not true, because otherwise you'd let her carry.
Right. Well, everything but that. Everything but let her exercise her Second Amendment right.
On a publicly funded university campus.
But
or
that's not important
partial
right now.
public funds. We don't need to go there. We certainly do everything we possibly can. Okay. No, you don't. That's a lie. Right off the bat, that's a lie. Right? Well,
right.
She would feel safe if she were allowed to carry a weapon concealed based upon her circumstances. You have the power to make exceptions for that, and your college won't. So right off the bat, your opening sentence is bullshit. Right?
I believe so.
Okay. And then listen to the second part. To make all our students feel safe. Not to keep our students safe, not to make for a safe environment, not to ensure the safety of our students and faculty, but to make all our students feel safe. We do all I possibly can, to make them feel safe. They're not safe.
It's exactly what the government does. We're going to make you feel safe by passing a whole bunch of laws and everything, but you're not actually safe.
No, they don't. They feel safe, but they're not safe.
I wonder. I automatically thought when you told me about this of Miss Amanda Collins, who is the University of Nevada Reno campus student, who was raped less than 100 yards from the University of Nevada Reno police station. Was not allowed to carry her weapon on campus. She does hold a CCW. She does have training in it. She absolutely could have defended herself. And the assailant who raped her went on to rape and murder another female that she swears that, if she had her weapon on her that night and was allowed to carry, she could have stopped. So we've already had proven instances on campus of colleges who do everything they can to make their people feel safe, but sidestep the Constitution.
Yeah.
And then not create victims. Obviously, you need that bad guy to do something for them to be victimized. But let's face it, they, through their ignorance and omission, they allow incidents like this to happen. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
I want to read this. So I actually looked up the Dartmouth police, and what I got is their website, and it's Department of Safety and Security.
Yes.
Who we are. I decided to click on it because I want to know who they are.
I'm there right now.
Who is it that is going to make them
Dartmouth.edu
safe?
Click security.
And here we go. So it says, "Welcome to the Dartmouth College Department of Safety and Security's website. We want your experience at Dartmouth College to be a safe and enjoyable one." Now, here's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. The Department of Safety and Security provides Dartmouth College with professional safety and security services that include incident response, investigation, and follow-up of all security-related matters that come to our attention.
Really?
Yeah, so not all security matters, not pre-incident planning. It doesn't
just
sound
anything they're told about.
Just anything that comes to their attention. It gets better. We strive to engage our community via education, information sharing, and training programs as our strongest ally in deterrence and prevention.
Well then.
Okay. Strive to engage our community via education. Okay, not in proactive enforcement.
No.
Not in proactive prevention measures, right? But just in education and information sharing. That's nice. That sounds nice.
That's very nice.
That's so nice.
So nice.
The women and men, they didn't even put men and women. The women and men.
Well, ladies before
They
gentlemen.
have to put them first, right, because that's not PC at all.
Ladies before gentlemen.
Of this department are dedicated to the mission of the college, not to the safety and security.
No, the mission
but
of
to
the
the
college.
mission of the college. And as stated in our mission statement, to the maintenance of a campus environment that supports academic excellence independent thought and cultural collaboration.
Wow.
Is that your job?
No.
As a Department of Safety and Security? Is it your job to maintain a campus environment that supports academic excellence, independent thought, and cultural collaboration?
No, it's your job to keep your people safe.
What if I had an independent thought to go do something horrific at that college?
Yes.
Would they support that because I'm having an independent thought? Right? What if my cultural collaboration was not one that they necessarily agreed with?
Well, no, they agree with all.
What if they don't like Portuguese people?
Well, I mean, first of all, I can't blame them.
Right.
Second of all,
but besides that,
what?
wait, what'd you say?
Listen, it's a liberal college in Hanover, New Hampshire. This is very big in college campuses with law enforcement and security agencies and stuff like that, where they really are a hand of the university. They are very much controlled by the hand of the university, not by the state law, not by common practices. The universities, and especially on the East Coast, I know this because I have friends who've worked university law enforcement, LAR enforcement, that will tell you that they're not allowed to go ahead and do certain things because it looks bad for the college or because that student's paying money or whatever. So unlike a city and town that, you know, you have your state local laws and then you have your city council, but you have to adhere to certain state laws. It's pretty much run by a dean who's trying to make money for the school, and you know, things like a negative Clery report, which Clery is the college law enforcement report that they submit, and every college university submits one. If it's bad and there's crime, or if there's a lot of criminal behavior that's approached or dealt with, et cetera, it's bad for tuitions. So that's what it comes down to, really. It has nothing to do with the Second Amendment of this girl's safety or keeping the people safe.
No.
It's about selling tuition. And you're not going to do that if you have a law enforcement who is being proactive, because proactivity, if they're doing it right, is going to go well beyond. Thanks,
Did
Sacco.
you just goose Sacco's mom?
It's going to go well beyond what they want in that Clear report and just making things look nice.
Do you want to know a list of their services that they offer? Because they're going to keep this young woman safe if this guy makes bail. You want to know what they do? Bicycle registration.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's nice. They nailed it. Lost and found.
Ooh.
8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Could have the janitors do that.
Safety escorts.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I just read a report on the 10 most expensive escorts in the country, according to, I think it was Gentleman's Magazine.
Yeah, different kind of.
Right.
Yeah, this is like a safety escort.
Okay, that was via the Chive, by the way.
Not a Chive on.
Oh, yeah, Chive on. What?
I
don't know why college law enforcement is even getting involved in an escort service, but
right.
Listen, I've spent time in college universities.
They do have a rape aggression defense program, RAD.
Yes.
Part of that program is not carry a gun.
Right.
Right.
And they do everything they can to avoid that.
Right.
It's
four principles: education, dependency on self, making your own decisions, and realizing your own power. That, my friend, is what is going to prevent you from getting raped.
You know what that says to me, though? That says don't wear a short skirt or it's your fault.
No. You have to empower yourself. Listen, what part of this do you not understand?
You know what I mean? But that puts so much. It takes out the suspect, if you will. It takes them out of the equation and puts all the pressure on the victim.
Well, but they teach women, according to this here, defensive concepts and techniques against various types of assault. So what do they teach to do with an assailant with a gun?
Nothing.
Or
vomit on them.
Assailant with a knife.
Urinate on them. Vomit. Nothing. Nothing at all. Because they're not taking... And listen, at the end of the day, in that situation... It really comes down to you to defend yourself. If you have to live on campus, and listen, I know it's a privilege to go to school there. I'm not saying it's a right per se, but if you have to live on a campus that essentially says, you know, that we're not really doing much about crime and we're not going to do much, you have to be allowed to defend yourself. And it sounds like they're not doing anything.
Well, no, they're teaching RAD.
Ken would like to point out a mental note to never wear a skirt to prison. So that's just a good rule.
That's
of
a pretty
thumb.
good, or thigh highs. Or thigh highs. And now, don't wear a skirt to prison. That also encompasses, most people don't know this, this also encompasses the baggy pants that kids sag around underneath their ass. Because that originally was done to show off the goods in prison. And it's kind of morphed into
something else.
Something else, yeah. Like it was, look, I'm hard. I have a look like I was a prisoner. No, it's not hard. It actually makes other guys in prison hard. That's how that came to be. So,
well,
listen.
Hopefully we can follow this story, and hopefully it has a good ending, and hopefully that young lady is able to
carry her gun to college.
Yeah, do the right thing. Let her exercise her constitutional right.
But you know what? Good on FoxNews.com for picking that story up.
Yeah,
Again,
that was low.
That was the source. I wouldn't have that. I haven't seen that one anywhere else. So we thank them. Now, something else. Have you heard criminal alien kids, CAK or COX, as we call them here, CAK, not anything dirty. So our folks out there, our listeners, please get your mind out of the gutter.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. What is wrong with these people? Like Jason, for example, just went ballistic with that, and I don't know why.
Go on.
They've been exposing our agents, our citizens, our people that work at these detention facilities to lice, tuberculosis, scabies.
Oh, nice. That's always pleasant.
Yeah, so a plethora of health-related issues. And the great part is that there have actually been children of our citizens, our employees, that have gotten sick.
What?
I know.
You know, but it's all about the kids that are coming across the border. That's what's important. We have to take care of every kid that comes across that border.
Right, at the expense of our own.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Aren't you selfless?
No, I'm selfish. I want our people to be safe.
What about everyone else's people?
Yeah, we need to take care of our own first.
You know what the problem is with you?
I'm not. I don't think global enough.
You're a do for yourself first.
I don't. No, I'm a do for my country first. I'm not a global thinker.
No.
That's the problem. I'm not a global thinker. I need to go to re-education camp put on by the UN. Don't laugh. You're going to be right there, my friend. Sacco is going to be the only one that escapes it because he has been oppressed.
Sacco is going to be like the guy that leads them to us and then becomes part of the people in power.
Right.
Oh, man. So, Sacco, what was that?
What is with you in the soundboard today?
You give him a little bit of time. And
take the soundboard out of his cage.
I also
We've had
wonder
this talk.
how long before people with Ebola start coming across the border.
They've already brought a couple in, so that's good, right?
Oh, wait. I meant for the southern border. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're flying them in now.
We're flying them in.
We can't get them here. You know what? The border is too slow, so we're throwing them on government-paid jet planes and flying them here. What is wrong with us? Seriously. If it was the bubonic plague, would we honestly be throwing them on a plane and bringing them over?
Because we need to get them the best health care they can.
Man.
Listen, soon it's not going to be an issue. With Obamacare, it's going to take that right out of the equation. They'll go to other countries for help.
There is no cure for Ebola. This also ties in. Did you see there was a video, I know we're up against a break, a video by a truck driver who is doing one of those down along the border. They have on-highway checkpoints. It's in the country, you're not crossing over. But he had a couple issues in the past with Border Patrol. He's one of those guys, right, wrong, or indifferent. He kind of gives the Border Patrol a little bit of a hard time because he's an American citizen, and he's like, why am I being stopped on an American highway? I'm not crossing the border. Judging by a few of his earlier videos I saw. He's not mean or rude, but he's just very abrupt. And so this time...
That's always a good thing to be.
Yeah. But this time he's going through, he's wearing his recording glasses, and the Border Patrol agent asks him, an American citizen, and he says to the Border Patrol agent, yeah, but what difference does it make? And the Border Patrol agent responds back, it doesn't, essentially, but I have to ask. Essentially saying, yeah, I know, we're host. So, and he said that he sees them all the time, and the more he sees them, the more friendly he gets because he starts to know their faces. That's his route,
right.
and they're just destroyed. Morale.
So he's friendly with them now, realizing, hey, it's not your guys' fault. You guys are hosts. Sorry, that kind of sucks.
So it's amazing to me that's in the Border Patrol. I mean, that is. that is how their morale is right now with everything that's going on the border. And I know we're going to get into the border talk a little bit more after the break. So why don't we do this, Saka? Why don't we roll into a break? We'll come back on the other side, and we'll really get hot and heavy to the Border Patrol. Can you do that for us, Saka? Please?
Sacco?
Saka, commercial.
Sacco.
Radio. Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Radio.
Oh, and we're back here on the Sackheads Radio Show. 800-545-5708 is the phone number. So much to talk about, especially along the border. You know, the border crisis and everything that's happened with Israel and Gaza, and trust me, it should have gotten media attention. It just didn't get the right media attention. But it really overshadowed, and it kind of gave the Obama administration a reprieve on what's going on the southern border. It sucked up, mainstream media took to Israel and Gaza, and for the most part ignored the border. I mean, they threw a couple things. It wasn't until the argument with Marino and Pelosi a couple days ago.
Is that our official matchup of the week?
Matchup.
Is it?
Yes.
Pelosi and Marino.
Pelosi and Marino.
Who
Not
wins?
Dan Marino.
No, not Dan Marino. Who wins?
Marino.
How?
Puts her collagen up on an upper shelf that she can't reach.
Okay. I was gonna go with forearm shiver followed by pistol grip. Slapping her with her pistol grip.
Sadly, I think osteoporosis is winning for him. Have you seen her walk lately, Nancy?
I'm not going to make fun of her medical condition. We'll make fun of her retardation, but we're not going to make fun of her medical condition.
I'm just saying, but you get to a certain age. Listen, nobody wants to be Strom Thurmond in the wheelchair. You know, because of old age, not because of a legit injury or disability.
Right.
At some point, you have to realize that it's time for you to go.
Do you think?
And I think when you're,
do you think she's losing her mind a little bit?
Oh gosh, yeah.
You think so?
I equate her to Witch Hazel from Bugs Bunny.
That's Dianne Feinstein.
Every time she runs, there's the bobby pins that fly in the air behind her.
See, that's Dianne Feinstein to me. Pelosi reminds me more of the Wicked Witch from Wizard of Oz. Right, like picture that as she's chasing Marino around the house floor. Right?
Yes. So on her broom.
Right. Or bicycle.
Yes, her bicycle broom.
Her boomsicle.
Her boomsicle. So, the most amazing thing about our border right now is how protected it is. And,
well, yeah.
Isn't.
Wait.
Isn't. I meant isn't. We have all these folks that are trying to come to this country for one reason or another, including gang members.
MS-13 is recruiting heavily.
Previously convicted murderers? Is that so? How could that be possible?
It can't. It's not. That's not happening. That's right-wing propaganda and spin made up to... It's a lie,
There is no way that two illegals that were once deported for murdering a Border Patrol agent somehow got back into the country.
Well, were they deported for murdering him, or were they just deported previously?
I think both. I think they were once deported.
I think they were deported a couple times.
Yeah.
And so they shot and killed an off-duty Border Patrol agent, Agent Javier Vega Jr. And it was Gustavo Tijerina and Ismael Hernandez were the two suspects here. They'd been previously deported from the United States, came back in again, and they killed this off-duty agent. It was basically a robbery gone bad. He was with his family at the time, fishing, and these two individuals, these two criminal aliens, came across them. Yeah, tried to rob him. Ended up killing Mr. Vega and attempted to kill his father, who was shot during the altercation or whatever, shot in the incident, and was shot in the hip and injured. So, how did they? And now there's information that they may be tied to cartels, and they're actually tying that together, and they may be facing additional charges for that. I don't even know where to begin. This is so frustrating for me, because here you have illegals who have been arrested at least 4 times for crossing into the U.S. illegally, and the time frames on those were between the years of 2007 and 2009. And
they're just yearning for freedom.
Hernandez was deported at least twice.
Ugh.
So, how is this not... Look, it just so happened that this was an off-duty Border Patrol agent.
Right, it could have been anyone.
What if this was anybody else? This could be any father fishing with his kids and his wife, or any mother, or whatever. It could have been any United States citizen.
Right.
It just happened to be a Border Patrol agent.
And it's sad either way. And what's even more sad is how the administration looks at this murder. We're just going to send him back. We're just going to send him back. Blah, blah, blah. We're just going to send him. Well, listen, if there's one thing we've learned about our illegal or criminal aliens that come into this country, the most violent ones are the ones that only get deported, and they have the highest recidivism rate.
Recidivism.
Wow. Huh? And, they boomerang. They just find a different place to come back aboard. They play the name game for a little bit, and they try to hide. But the reality is that they come back over. And they come back over and do more horrific things because they're already criminals and they know it. So they can't come over and do things legally. It's not like they can come here and claim clemency or some sort of political exile or anything like that. They're murderers and they're criminals. And we keep allowing them to come back into this country. And it really shows you how jacked up our situation is at the border. This is a really prime example of how the border is just so backwards. And I've said before, I understand the humanitarian aspect of it for the children. I'm not ignorant and I'm not cold-hearted, but simple fact is we are a nation of laws. And we have to abide by those laws. And when you have an administration who does nothing but ignore those laws and chooses not to follow them because it's not politically expedient, it creates this horrific situation that we have now. They can blame Republicans all they want, but like Marino said when he was talking to Pelosi, they had 2 years. They could have passed anything they wanted. They had the House and the Senate and the executive. It could have been signed, sealed, and delivered. So this situation was allowed and created by this administration. If they were so serious about fixing it, if they were so on top of it, if they really understood the situation, they would have fixed it. And it's one of two things. It's because, as some would argue, they wanted the votes that come out of it, and they know that they could probably get 85 to 90% of those votes on their side, and that's a rough estimate. I bet you they could get higher.
Yeah.
Or it was an utter failure on their behalf, a complete and disastrous utter failure, and at which point they chose to ignore the situation and hope that it didn't happen. And it did, and here we are now. And it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic and horrible. And I don't know how any one of those lawmakers that were in the House those 2 years that owned it can look at themselves in the mirror, never mind those on the right, and blame anyone else. It was their fault. They could have done it. Even if I didn't necessarily agree with the package that they passed, the simple words is, the simple answer is, it would have been something, and it would have shown that they understood the situation. So that's something that really is a tragedy. And the lawmakers have let down these people who are coming to the border, as well as
they've let down the citizens.
The citizens.
They've
of
let
this
down
country.
us.
And they're letting down both, because the people coming to the border, whether you agree or disagree, they think they're coming to freedom and safety, albeit for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. But the reality of the situation is they're not. They're either going to sneak over and have to live underground their whole life, and Lord help us for what they might actually have to do to pay off their debt, or they're going to be turned around and flown home, and at which point, if they live in one of those countries that will kill them when they find out why they try to get away, they're dead, because the invitation was open. Because we're choosing to do nothing is the equivalent of saying, come on over, we'll take care of you. And there's no plan. And it's a disaster. It is a humanitarian disaster, yeah, but it's also a natural disaster that's man-made. And it was man-made by Congress and the Obama administration.
If it's man-made, could it be a natural disaster?
Yeah, it's a man-made natural disaster. I just said it, so it can be. You know this. If I say something, it's pretty.
Dude, I'm staring at you right now because I'm trying to figure out some way that you could have a man-made natural disaster, black holes, or like dark matter.
Well, here's how it's man-made. The Obama administration allowed it to happen, and these people are human beings.
And it's natural, which is
a
naturally
part
made.
Of nature. So
right.
It's a man-made natural disaster.
And so they are, in fact, a disaster, the people themselves?
Just the incident, not
the
them
incident,
themselves.
not them.
It's like them being illegal. They can't, by existence, be illegal.
Yeah, if they were existing in this country without proper... Yeah, they can.
No, but
I love that look.
Their existence in life
here in this
illegal,
country is illegal.
But their actions can be criminal.
So let's take kind of a biblical look. If they were born out of wedlock, could they be illegal in their...
Depends.
Right?
If they're I guess technically if they live in a country where you have to be married to have children, then yes, they could
in fact be illegal.
No, actually, the parents would have committed an illegal act. The child. Why are we having this discussion?
I'm asking. Listen, we engage in theory here. Like, what if the
do?
Obama administration?
Since when?
So what do you do about it? We talked about previously Rick Perry saying, "Hey, I'm going to put National Guard troops on the border of Texas, right, to help control that area along the Rio Grande. And we know that there have been our forces, our civilians, our Border Patrol have taken fire from Mexico, from the Mexico side, whether it's cartels, whether it's military, whether it's Mexican military operating under the direction of the cartels. We know that our citizens, our law enforcement, has received fire from Mexico, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And I would argue that that's an act of war. But
I absolutely would argue the same thing.
But we never take action in return. Our Border Patrol doesn't return fire. It's ridiculous. So, and I was kind of thinking this through the other night, and if Governor Perry activated the National Guard, and let's say the Obama administration didn't like it. So the Obama administration, in order to stop Governor Perry from employing his National Guard troops, what if he activated those National Guard units and pulled them into federal service?
Mm-hmm.
Then what would Governor Perry do?
I guess you'd have to stake with your local state militia and law enforcement.
Right. So
you'd have to go to the next option.
You'd have to go to the next option. And not all state has that. Texas does. Texas has a state guard.
Right.
And Congress authorized, the Constitution says that states shall not maintain their own troops without the consent of Congress. Well, Congress actually passed a law for states to permanently establish state defense forces. And they're not National Guard. They fall under a different category altogether. They're not subject to federal call-up, although that has not been tested in the courts because there's some theory that, well, hey, the Constitution says they can call up militia and that state defense forces are an unorganized militia, so they may be able to be called into service as a unit, kind of like a draft also as would be unorganized militia, just drafting the people, right? The people themselves are militia.
Rooster in the chat room is quick to point out that National Guard troops perform federal duty is a violation of posse comitatus.
That doing what?
National Guard troops performing a federal duty is actually a violation of the posse comitatus.
Not if Obama pulls them and ships them overseas, right?
Well, if he activates them and sends them to Afghanistan, and that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm not talking about activating them and leaving them
federal, local,
leaving them local in a federal
putting them
mission.
in charge of a state or something, martial law or something like that. Right. Well, but they could. Ken's got a posse too. He says. It's the little things that he throws in that kills me. Now Obama could activate them, and they could do a federal mission along the border.
Absolutely, yes.
But no,
because
we're not
protecting our federal border versus the state.
Exactly. Yeah. No. So we're not talking about activating them and using them on our own citizens. We're talking about if Obama activated them to try and seize that group or seize that asset from Governor Perry,
right,
and activates them in a lawful purpose. But yeah, Texas would have its Texas State Guard that they would be able to deploy. Not all states have a state defense force or a defense force. Puerto Rico does. I think there's 22. Don't quote me on that. I'd have to look. Or there's 21, 22, somewhere around there. And some of them have weapons training. Some do not. California actually does. Texas, of course, does. They have the Texas State Guard. They also have the Texas State Guard Maritime Regiment.
Right. I think they have an aircraft carrier, and if they don't, we need to make that happen.
We do. But California does also. They have the California Naval Militia.
Yeah. I've actually read that before. So there are options that they could be activated.
And Massachusetts has a state defense force.
Yeah, there's
why is it these liberal, batshit crazy states have defense forces? No, like New York. New York has a guard and a naval militia.
I know.
Right? Massachusetts, California.
A lot of them are fairly inactive.
Oregon has an active defense force.
A lot of them are fairly inactive. Listen,
But they have them.
Right. They could organize them. And the problem is the state won't fund them in those liberal states to activate them.
California has an active one.
They have a fairly active one.
Yeah, they do.
They have a...
They were the ATAC or the ACUs with the California on the tab instead of
But
National
one of the
Guard.
things that they don't do is they don't, and I've read into them, they don't engage in weapons training and stuff like that. They are more of an educational branch. I know what their website says, but I've done some reading and some research into them.
But they can.
They can, technically. They're more or less their support.
Right.
They support a lot of the state missions, usually around natural disasters, man-made or otherwise. I'm still throwing it out there, et cetera, et cetera. And listen, Ag brought up a good point. He said he's going to call up the National Guard in Texas, but he hasn't yet.
Correct.
And it kind of goes, is he saying it, hoping that kind of bluffing the president? Hey, you know what? You need to do it or I will, thinking that the president's going to say, oh, no, I'm going to do it and find a way to kind of do it but don't. Or has that bluff been called? And now he's not going to do it because at some point, it's going to show that he's serious. And if I were him, even if he isn't serious, I'd start putting him through training. Hey, you know what? Activate yourself. Get ready to do border training.
Activate yourself. Go.
Wonder Twins. Go. And show the president that he's serious. The point is listen, Congress isn't going to do anything about it. The president certainly isn't going to do anything about it. All they're doing now is blaming Republicans for not going along with whatever they say. This has turned into political satire, if you will, on behalf of both sides, really. Mm-hmm. Some of the ideas that the right's floating around, too, is just not what we need. It's just a right idea, quote unquote. And there's not any real movement out there that will solidify our border, and that's the biggest problem right now. There's the Gang of Eight, the posse, or whatever you want to call them. There's so many ideas out, but the reality is that we need to just put up a fence. And I know that sounds silly, but the easiest solution is to put up a 10-foot fence. Somebody say, oh, you can't put a fence up over the... Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can put a fence up and, protect it. Yeah, the Wall of China. They built
the Chinese did it.
They totally understand.
The Berlin Wall.
We could build it. We have federal prisoners that would absolutely be perfect for building a fence.
We have state prisoners.
We have state prisoners. So, I just covered all your labor.
We
right
built
there.
a railroad that connected. Why can't we build a wall that connects?
Right, or a fence, something.
Out of Legos.
Yeah. Dig a 15-foot hole out of Legos. Constructs. Dig a 15-foot hill,
Tinker
fill it
toys.
with concrete so they can't get underneath it and put a fence on top of it. There are things that we can do legitimately, and it won't be a quick fix, but empowering.
Go to Home Depot and get a picket fence.
Something nice and decorative, even.
Right.
But empowering Border Patrol to actually do their job and enforce the laws that are on the books now would be a good start.
And you just said it, empowering them to do their
Yes.
job. Because right now they have no support.
Zero support.
They get in trouble for doing their own job.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how many members of their union have come out and said, hey, you know what? We can't do our job because we're not allowed to do our job. Rooster's suggesting that it would be more patriotic
Oh, okay.
to come out and use Lincoln logs. I would agree with that. I'm not against that.
Now, what I would think it would be even more patriotic if we use Washington quarters.
Ooh. Oh, see? That's a good idea. Ag's got a great idea in the chat room.
Uh-huh.
Build a wall and a nice crocodile border. We can call it an animal sanctuary.
Ooh,
dude.
Very
you know
nice.
What? Sacco chimes in with trail of breadcrumbs leading them in circles. That'll take care of some of the desert animals. Wow. I don't even know if I can... You know what?
Read it. It's not yours.
It's
Read it.
Ken.
Read it.
I don't know if I could do Ken dirty like that. I don't know. I'm going to hold off on it for a few minutes.
Why did you dime him out then? Why didn't you just say someone said?
Because No. Because everyone in the chat room, this is why people need to come into the chat room more. Really, this is why people need it, because a great statement like that will now be read. If you at shrmedia.com are listening on the app, go to shrmedia.com and jump into chat. I'm leaving it at that. So everyone who is in the chat room tonight will know the inside joke, and except for you.
What's chat? Well, I thought that's what we're doing right now. We're having a chat. We're having a nice...
No, chat roll. I know, it's numbers. Huh? Oh, you want me to turn the screen so you can read it? Now, let's move right along.
I'm not moving along. I'm putting the brakes on. I'm sitting
Hold on,
right
let
here.
me show you then.
Okay, hang on. I got to read it.
It's the one about Lincoln Logs. Hold on, can you read it? The exceptional one himself. That's the best part.
And that's true.
It is very true. He hit the nail on the head. So we have Jason Miller at the top of the hour, but we have the interview that he did earlier on his show. Mm-hmm. That's going to lead us to the break. It's kind of a long interview.
Sacco just came out of his cage.
Sacco's coming out of his cage in order to get us ready.
Yep.
Sacco's going to play it. It's going to give us a chance to kind of refresh. I have to transition to a different location in the studio. So, what?
Nothing. I'm just looking at you. I'm wondering where you're going to. You're probably going to transition over to the bar.
I would love to.
I'm going to transition over to the pool table.
Sacco, you have the news, the interview ready from the Evan Miller report earlier? Okay. Why don't we jump right into that, and we'll talk to you on the other side here on the Sackheads Radio Show.
And joining us now with an update on what is going on with the border convoy over there, and in response to what has been death threats towards the border convoy group in the past 72 hours, is Eric Odom of Liberty News, and he joins us from the scene. I believe you're in Texas tonight. Is that right, Eric?
Hey, good evening. Good to be with you again. And yes, calling from McAllen, Texas, right down along the border.
Now, first of all, tell us what is going on. Yesterday, actually, it was Monday. You reported through your Facebook page that you had received death threats from the group La Raza, which is known as a terrorist organization, and as some organizations here in the United States. You received death threats from the likes of La Raza. Your hotel had to be evacuated, and that you had to cancel 2 events. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, that actually started when we left Arizona. We had a great uneventful set. I mean, there was no threats against us in Arizona. It was very safe and peaceful. We protested at John McCain's office, and then went on to an ICE and Border Patrol facility outside of Phoenix before ending in Oracle, Arizona, where they've also been stopping buses to kind of show. We took a convoy through there and showed support for the community. And that was all peaceful. But on our way through New Mexico, actually that night, and then the next day when we left to go through New Mexico towards El Paso, we were being sent screenshots of some of these groups calling for their people to show up with not firearms, but certainly other items that could be used to cause harm against people in our convoy. And, our convoy has like soccer moms and, just family members, just good old-fashioned folks carrying flags. They don't need to be thrust into that kind of environment. So as a result of that, we canceled our El Paso stops, which turned out to be a very good thing, because I don't know if you saw or not, but we did have to file charges as there was someone in El Paso that attempted to run us off the highway. And what actually happened is we shut down I-10 going through El Paso for 45 minutes as a swarm of police officers were involved and descended upon our convoy. And we believe it was a setup. We believe that it was some sort of La Raza type, MS-13 or cartel type individuals, because of the clothing they were wearing. That were waiting under overpasses and were calling others as soon as they spot us. And they also called Univision or Universion or whatever the name of that is.
Yeah, Univision.
Somehow
right the first time.
to somehow magically be on scene within 45 seconds of them shutting down the highway with us stuck in the middle of traffic. And also there were protesters carrying signs along the side of the interstate within 45 seconds of us pulling over and stopping traffic. So it was a complete setup. They tried to run the vehicle that I was in off the road, and then tried to run an RV and then one other vehicle in our convoy off the road. They claimed that there was a firearm.
Is anyone hurt?
No, everyone was safe, and they called 911. The drivers that tried to stop us. Of course, we were all on the phone with 911 as well, and they claimed that that someone had pointed a rifle at them, which was absolutely absurd. There was no proof of that. The entire thing was caught on video, and that was the most damning evidence against them. And then, of course, we filed charges against them for. I think that the investigation with the police department is leading to false report and reckless endangerment with a vehicle or something along those lines. So in El Paso, things really kind of turned for the worse, and we believe what happened is that we were probably followed by cartel members from El Paso to Van Horn, Texas. And because of what had happened in El Paso, some of the members some of the people that had come along in the convoy had called up some friends who were with a very professional outfit called Operation Secure Our Borders, which is a militia type. It's a group of ex-military, and they are. I mean, words can't describe how professional this group was and is, and they've pretty much held us and kind of watched over us ever since. But they showed up at about 3:30 a.m. and assessed the environment, and by about 4:20 to 4:30 a.m. at the hotel, which was a Quality Inn in Van Horn, made a determination that there were spotters for cartels parked in multiple areas watching the hotel that we were sleeping in. And once they made that determination, they got the room numbers of all members of our convoy, banged on all of the doors, and it was a terrifying situation to wake up to these militia guys who were armed to the teeth and had bandanas over their face, and it really was, in their view, a military type operation to evacuate us out of this hotel. We were escorted very quickly.
How did the hotel staff take it?
The hotel staff was pretty much non-existent. It was a little Quality Inn, with a ring doorbell to get into the front. I'm guessing somebody at the hotel staff was probably asleep. I have no, it all just happened so fast, and literally there's nothing at that exit other than some sort of a gas station, a McDonald's that was closed. I think both the gas station and the McDonald's were closed, and that Quality Inn hotel. So there's just it's not like there's going to be any kind of big presence of just day-to-day business activity at that time of night. So they very quickly escorted us out of Culberson County. And we were on the phone with 911 as we were being escorted along the interstate. These guys were in the back of pickups and in front of us and behind us, and we're just very professional about it. They got us off of the interstate in Reeves County, where we then met up with quite a sizable group of state troopers and I believe one sheriff's deputy from Reeves County. Where we all had discussions, we talked back and forth. One of the officers there agreed that they thought there probably were cartel members around the hotel. And then the law enforcement took over and escorted us out beyond Reeves County. And then we drove all the way to San Antonio. We got off of our route and drove to San Antonio to kind of restructure, make sure that we were a little bit more secured, and then refocus to make sure that this wasn't, we had no intention to go along to Del Rio and Laredo if all it was us running from people, and hiding our vehicles and being scared the whole time, So, but the truth is, and I remember talking to you, I think it was a week or two ago, that a big part of the mission of the border convoy is to go down and prove how dangerous this area is. And when you see news of what's happening in Gaza Strip and in some of those parts of the world, you realize we have a strip of our own that is just as violent. And the drug cartels, they dominate these areas. They've got law enforcement on their payroll. They watch everything that's happening, and anybody who comes in and says that things need to be done differently and that they need to be shut down becomes an enemy of their operation. So it literally could be peaceful.
Now, is
Go
it
ahead.
your opinion, Eric, that we've heard the horror stories at the Texas-Mexico border? Is it your opinion that not only the Texas border is being invaded, that all our borders within the other states, including New Mexico, Arizona, and California, are also in this same situation?
Oh, absolutely. And we talked to a gentleman who was a part of a volunteer border security force out in Arizona, and he tells us the same kind of stories. There's parts of Arizona where they've gone down and watched just hundreds of people cross, some of them carrying heavy arms, trafficking people across that border. The difference for us was that when we went through Arizona, we were quite a distance from the border. When you cross into El Paso, you see Juarez. So it's right there on the south side of the interstate, just across the canal there. So that's the big difference, is that it's not as the violence and the threat is not as prominent in states like Arizona, just because the bulk of people live up off the border. But once you get into Texas and you get into Laredo, Del Rio, McAllen, where we are right now, we're right up against the border here. And then Arizona and California, Del Rio, Laredo, McAllen, Fort Hancock, El Paso, they are all right up against very, very dangerous parts of Mexico, and they're completely unsecured. We saw, just going down towards Fort Hancock, you could see just miles and miles of border area that there's no cameras, there's no border patrol, there's no fence. There's literally no security. In the middle of the night, you have no idea who's coming across that border and what their intentions are and what diseases they're bringing. It's just incredible.
Now, we've mentioned on this program as recent as last week that there was a possibility people with the Ebola virus, which is in Africa, was a main part of the president's speech news conference a few hours ago. He was asked about. Have you seen or have you heard any reports of any people crossing the border with the Ebola virus?
Not Ebola. I haven't heard that. I did talk to a source of mine in DHS earlier today, and was told that there's a facility here in McAllen that literally the entire facility has come down with chickenpox, and that's kind of scary. So we just got here on the ground, and we're starting to talk to our sources and meet with people to figure out who's where and what's going on, and I'm certainly going to dig and ask some of those questions. But I would imagine that there's a lot of things happening that we're not being told, because I'm guessing that if, the government knows full well that if suddenly one of these facilities has a case as significant as that, then there's going to be quarantine activity, and they're not going to have a media event to announce it. So just as the government is not telling us quite how bad all of this is and how bad some of these people are coming across the border are, I don't think they're going to tell us how bad the disease threat is either. So that's why it's important for groups like ours to be down here weseeing it firsthand, and investigating and discovering what exactly is going on, because I think the majority of America we're just not being told what's really happening down here. Fortunately, there's alternative media and talk radio, but that's, as you know, it's an uphill battle when you've got hundreds of millions of people that need to realize that we are literally in real time at war at our borders, and most of the country doesn't realize it.
Absolutely right. Right on that, we are being invaded. I'll go as far as to put that forth, that we are being invaded by the likes of MS-13 and the Mexican drug cartels, and Governor Perry of Texas seems to be the only one who seems to be doing something about it. Have you gotten a response to what has happened to you from Governor Perry's office, and are they going to be filing an investigation into this as the police are?
We have not. There's a rally planned. There's two rallies planned tomorrow. One is at the Mexican consulate up in San Antonio, where we'll be calling for Mexico to end its human rights violations and stop the human trafficking happening on their side of the border. The second will be at Governor Rick Perry's office up in Austin, where some of that will be brought up, as well as a demand for him to really take this seriously, not photo op stuff to the 1,000 National Guard, but I mean really get 10,000 or more troops down there, get cameras up, get drones up in the air, do whatever is necessary to stop this, because the people that we've talked to in Texas are in full freak out mode. over what's coming over their borders. And what most people don't realize is that there is so much cartel control over cities like San Antonio and other cities across Texas that a flip of a switch could activate a network of people so violent and horrendous and horrifying that it's, it's to the level of something we've never seen straight out of a movie. That literally the state of Texas could be an instantaneous war against an enemy that dismembers the people that it opposes and leaves their heads in the middle of the streets. And those types of people are in every one of Texas' cities. They are flooding in on a daily basis, unchecked at our borders. And this is incredibly dangerous, and there's just not really anything that's being done to stop it. And that would kind of pivot into the second part of our convo is, certainly calling on people to take action. And I'd tell your listeners, this is session right now, and Congress, the members are home, and they're ready to go into campaign mode because they have elections coming up in a couple months. So find out where their events are. Get to their town hall events, get to their campaign events, and do not let them off the hook. If they get involved with legislation that doesn't secure the border, then they should be voted out immediately, because that is a violation of their oath to protect our borders from foreign invasion, and that should be the number one priority.
And again, that was Eric Odom with the Evan Miller Report. Jason Miller is an amazing interview. It gives you unbelievable insight on what's going on the border and really just how scary it is. So we're going to take a really quick break. I believe I have Jason on the line because I took over the sound engineering from Sacco, who we've sent on assignment, and by that I mean we were hungry.
Back in his cage because he couldn't do it anymore.
We sent him for tacos.
No, we put him back in his cage. I thought we were just going to be honest with people. We had this talk.
Sorry. So as it is most weeks, not every week, most weeks, here is Jason Miller with the news. Jason, are you there, sir?
Yes, good evening, gentlemen, and good evening to everyone joining in on the network. And now, the news. Israel has offered to extend a 3-day ceasefire in Gaza, which began on Tuesday after nearly a month of conflict, according to Israeli officials. However, unconfirmed reports on social media suggest the militant Hamas movement, which controls Gaza, has not agreed to the extension. A member of the Palestinian delegation at the Cairo talks, Masouma al-Marzouki, wrote on his Twitter account, quote, "There is no agreement to extend the ceasefire." In his first comments since the 72-hour truce began, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blamed Hamas for all the civilian casualties, saying it had used civilians as human shields. Egypt has been mediating in indirect Israeli-Palestinian talks. Moving on to Russia tonight, the Russian news agency RIA Novosti quoted an official from the country's horticulture and veterinarian watchdog as saying that new sanctions would apply to all horticultural projects imported from the U.S. Fruits and vegetables from the EU will also be under a full ban, the official Alexeyko is quoted as saying. Russia buys fruit and vegetables from the EU worth an annual of 2 billion euros and food and horticultural products from the U.S. worth about 1 billion euros. Last week, Russia banned most horticultural imports from Poland on grounds of public health in what was seen as a thinly veiled retaliation for Poland's advocacy of tough action over Ukraine. Moving on to U.S. news, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Wednesday issued its highest alert for an all-hands-on-deck response to the Ebola crisis in West Africa. Ops Center moved to Level 1 response to give the extension to Nigeria and the potential to affect many lives, said CDC Chief Tom Frieden on Twitter. Level 1 is the highest of a 1 to 6 scale, and the signals that increased staff and resources will be devoted to the outbreak. A Republican congressman from Alabama says Democrats are engaged in a, quote, war on rights. Congressman Mo Brooks made his comment on a conservative talk radio program this past Monday. He said the Democratic Party claims white people hate everyone else and that it's part of President Obama's strategy of dividing people on the basis of race, sex, and class. The remarks came in discussion of immigration legislation passed last week by the House that could result in increased deportations. Brooks was responding to an analysis saying that the Republican Party risks losing an appeal to Latino voters and will not be able to be successful in a national race if it appeals only to white voters. To request for comment, the spokeswoman for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, Emily Bitter, wrote in an email, quote, "Wow, Congressman Brooks is living in his own world of paranoia, but sadly this is precisely the kind of decisive rhetoric that has come to define House Republicans." And finally, if the people over in the studio have that particular sound effect ready, and finally, a New York City's naked cowboy may have met his match. San Francisco's Board of Supervisors candidate George Davis stripped buck naked in Times Square on Wednesday to campaign for the right to be nude in public. Davis spoke out against the 2013 San Francisco public nudity ban introduced by his opponent, Scott Wiener. He says nudity is a form of expression. After Davis' speech, he conducted interviews stark naked. Then he walked to where artist Andy Golub was body painting another naked man. Davis ran for mayor in the year 2007 and for District 10 supervisor in 2010. He has been arrested twice for public nudity. Make sure you get all your day's headlines here on the SHR Media Network, Monday through Friday on the SHR Media Network at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on the Evan Miller Report. Corey Evan and myself bring you the latest news and information, including entertainment and lawsuits across America. And don't forget, Jack's Morning Glory, weeknight Sunday through Thursday at 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the SHR Media Network. From the SHR Newsroom, I'm Jason Miller, sending it back to the Sackheads Radio Show, where the boys, I hope, are not sitting naked with their beer belly showing. Back to you.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And thank you so much, Jason, for that report.
So then I said, let's do belly button shots, right? And Sean was like, yeah, this is great. I mean, we're just, hey, Sean, let me know when we're back on the air. I'm just telling Jake about our story, our party we held. Wait, what? Oh, that's true. I'm getting more liquor, but that's okay.
We are back here on the Sackheads Radio Show. Thank you so much for Jason for that interview, which was unbelievable. It was a great interview, as well as our weekly news at the top of the hour. You can check them out here every week at 9 o'clock from Miller Time. So getting back to our topics, the House approved a border, well, kind of.
No, it wasn't kind of. They did. It was a 223 to 189 vote.
Right.
They approved an illegal immigration, a criminal alien bill, and the Senate just decided that they weren't going to take it up.
Well, why would you?
So the House acted.
Yes.
You may not like what's in the bill.
Right.
But you got to pass it to see what's in it. No, that was something different.
that was
something completely different.
Obamacare.
We need health care now for these sick criminal alien kids coming over. But so they passed this bill, and essentially what they did is, and it took some doing, but it was the Republicans brought this bill up, and good for them for doing something, right?
Contrary to what Nancy Pelosi says.
You mean pistol grip? When she was chasing people around the House floor?
Actually, I think this sound effect is the same effect that Marino said as he ran.
What's that? Yeah? Yeah.
We've gotten 2 plays out of that tonight. I like it.
One of them, yeah. So essentially the bill includes another additional money for National Guard. For both the states and the federal government. It gives Homeland Security $400 million roughly in order to boost the border security. It gives $200 million-ish for humanitarian assistance, such as housing and so forth. It also allows more rapid deportations of children and people that are here illegally. So this bill addresses some of the issues. It's not a perfect bill, and I'm not claiming that it's a perfect bill. There was only one perfect bill, and his name was Clinton. And I'm kidding. That's for all of our before the chat room just completely goes nuts and eats me up. But it was a bill that addresses some of the issues. Again, it was passed by a 216 to 192 vote, and it was going to go over to the Senate. Obama said right away, by the way, that he's going to veto it. If it hits his desk, he's going to veto it. Okay, Hey, good job. Good job. But then he says he's going to go it alone, basically. He's going to act because Congress won't act. Well, hang on a second here, Mr. O. Mr. President, Congress did act. They passed a bill. Harry Reid, who is your party, refused. He let the Senate go. He refused to take it up.
I still hate using Harry Reid and party in the same sentence. It's just, I can't even imagine. Just the thought of a Harry Reid party is frightening.
Now, do we see Harry Reid as in the name, or Harry Reid is in the root word?
Right. Either way, it's
just a bad
yes.
right.
Moving on.
So, it annoys me how the Dems are the ones that left without accomplishing anything. Correct? Mm-hmm. The House stayed.
Right.
Boner held them. They got this thing passed. They got the votes, and they passed something. It should have gone to the Senate. Harry Reid refused to wait around. He kicked the Senate loose. Therefore, nothing was going to happen. And then Obama blames the House for not taking any action and says that because Congress won't act, he now has to act alone, essentially. How is this not nuts to anybody else? And by anybody else, I mean other people on the left or even mainstream media. Like, how do you not look at that and say, well, Congress doesn't do anything? Yeah, they passed a bill, but they didn't do anything.
Right. Well, and if the Senate took it up and the Senate Democrats made a few tweaks and changes to it, that they
send it back to the House,
and it still passed again, or they had that discussion,
right?
Then that is legislating.
You're working on something.
You're working on something.
Yes.
But to automatically say, no, everything in it is garbage, and we're going to toss it.
We're not even going to look at it.
It's not legislating. It's partisanship.
Yeah, and we're not even going to look at it.
Partisanship that they accuse the Republicans of constantly.
Right.
You got to look at it. It's on the desk. Push it through, or push it to the floor. Let it be argued. Let it be changed. Send it back. That's our way of government. You can't tell me everything in it was so bad that you're not even going to take it up. It's one of the biggest crises hitting our nation right now.
Yeah.
One of the biggest. And you can't tell me that even if they took one thing from it and said, hey, this is the only thing we approve of, we're going to send it back. It's a start. And we can have a conversation. But as soon as you just automatically ignore the quote-unquote opposition or those you disagree with, and you are our leaders in government, you are failing to do your job.
You're failing to govern.
Yes.
Which is like the biggest part of the word government.
It's kind of a biggie.
You can't have government without govern.
Right.
I'm pretty sure, right?
But it's just sad to me. It really is sad that this is where it's at in our Congress right now. And I agree with a lot of people in the chat room that have said this in the past, and a lot of people saying it outside the chat room, is we need to vote a vast majority of them out. Just get rid of them.
But they keep winning.
I know.
Like, incumbents keep winning. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Right.
Why do Congress has an all-time low approval rating?
Lowest
what is it, like
ever.
0.5%?
I
think we're trying to confirm this, but I think
Ebola
it's
actually has a higher
approval rating
than Congress.
Than Congress. and yet they keep getting voted. How? It's our own fault, America.
Yeah. No, it is our own fault. We're not paying attention. We have a tendency to just agree with whatever the mainstream
It's what
media
name
throws
sounds
out.
familiar.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's like, what movie was that? Eddie Murphy. Distinguished Gentleman.
Distinguished Gentleman.
Who do we usually vote for? The name you know. Remember, that was his only ad.
And it's true. It's absolutely true. Vote for me just because I'm me and not you, and that's good.
Right.
You know, like, it's almost like an Old Spice ad. Now look at the name. Now look down. Now pull the handle. Now look at me. I'm riding on a horse. At some point.
Right. No, that's Putin.
That's how he wins with 101% every time.
Right.
And everyone in the chat room is nailing it right now. It's because our lobby groups and money's buying these votes, and money's buying media, and media is swaying these votes. You turn on MSLSD and some of the other ones, and they automatically have their opinion. There was a guy on, I forget who was talking about earlier this week. I saw the clip, and whatever he was talking about was a very pro-Obama, but he was and he was supposed to be a newsman. It wasn't like he was an opinion guy.
It wasn't like he was the sack
But he was
heads.
so jaded that he's pushing it out like it's fact, and it's a total opinion. We have to get away from that. We have to...
Except for our show.
But we're an opinion show. We don't make any
Opinion
bones
shows
about that.
are okay.
Right. When Jason does the 2 minutes of news, it's just news.
Right.
Our show is an opinion thing. And there's some segments that we do report the news and then give our opinions about it. But we make no bones about it. It's an opinion show, but media has a tendency to push opinion as fact and news, and it's one of the biggest destroyers of our way of life in this country.
Well, just look at the Romney-Obama debate.
Yes.
When, what's her...
Candy Crowley. Was it Candy Crowley?
That broad when she said... I love that face you make whenever I say that word. I do it surely for your reaction.
I know, where I die a little inside.
Yeah, you do. I see that cringe.
Because my email is on everything, and when the hate mail rolls in, you're not the one that has to scan through 1,000 emails.
Look, I didn't put your email on everything.
I know.
That was you.
No, because you don't know how to.
I don't.
Or check it.
Or do what?
Check.
I actually have it on my phone. It just won't delete. So I have every email that I get to that.
All marked unread.
No, because I hate having that little circle with the number up there. So I actually have to read it just because my OCD kicks in and I have to get rid of that.
I know what you do. You click it and then immediately go to the
That's
next
reading
one.
it. It marks it as read. That's reading it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, just like when she said, well, actually, Obama did say, he did call it terrorism right away.
Yes. Wait, what?
Wait, huh?
No, it was, he did. I just want to point out a clarification that the president did immediately call Benghazi terrorism. Wait, what? Because that's not what the fact shows. We actually have the clip. No, that's not what happened. I'm telling you what happened. Don't ignore the clip. And that's exactly
obviously the clip is doctored.
That's exactly how elections get won. It is that jading and that throwing your opinion in to replace fact. And the media is allowed to do that in this country, and its followers do not call them out on it.
And it's not government's job to regulate that.
No,
it's not. There should not be a law passed saying that MSNBC cannot report their opinion as fact. That's not a fix. However, it's ethical, and it's not. I mean, it's not ethical, and it is up to the viewers and the listeners to call them out on it. Hey, you're not giving us a news story, you're giving us your spin on a news story, which is fine, but call it what it is. Call it an opinion show. Call it
an opinion channel.
Right.
MSNBC, Al Jazeera. It's an opinion channel.
Right.
And that's fine. But like you said, call it what it is. And part of the thing, too, is
you don't get them for false advertising?
You don't patronize these places and these news media sites that do it. You don't go to them. You don't sign up for their stuff. You don't get their email blasts and all that stuff. And eventually they'll get the message. And now that people are angry, you're starting to see a lot of the mainstream media tick back a little bit the other way. When you have Chris Matthews defending a Tea Party person on MSNBC,
right? And we played that.
It's a topsy-turvy world out there.
And Piers Morgan got his show canceled, right?
Right, because he was just way too off the rails.
No, Sean. No, here's what happened. We declared ideological war.
That's right.
We declared ideological war
against both of them.
We unleashed the fury, and we beat one into submission, and we just wiped one off the map.
Right.
Let's call it what it is.
Hey, we single-handedly.
This is unconfirmed. But we do have clips that show that
our opinion.
We do have clips that show that we declared ideological war. And a few months later, Piers Morgan's off the air. Are the two related? I don't know. You draw your own conclusion, folks. We just paint the picture, right? It's your eyes that interpret here.
Right.
We could just paint on a canvas.
Call it what you will.
I mean, clearly, to me, it's clearly connected.
I think we hit something.
Yeah,
I think we hit a nail on the head.
Yeah, and when's the last time you heard from Michael Moore?
Right.
I mean,
we went after him early.
We went after him.
Remember the picture I drew of him?
Yeah.
Summed him right up.
Absolutely. And when's the last time we heard anything from him?
Nothing.
Look, folks, do you believe in coincidence? I don't. That's all I'm saying.
And now even Chris Matthews is on a short leash. He was number 2 on the ideological war from Sackheads Radio. So we're going one by one.
We are.
And we're taking him off the air.
Well, we're not saying that, but we're saying just it paints a picture, right? Infer what you will.
No,
That's 3.
My opinion based on the fact is that we had a hand in that.
Right.
Now, if it was over 50% of the reason or under, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But I'm saying we had a hand in that.
Right. 1%, 2%, 57%. I don't know.
Right.
But
see, they're shills for their masters. We're shills, but we're our own masters.
Right.
As it should be.
Yeah, don't screw with Sackheads, folks.
We will take you
we will
air.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Have a
definitely look. Do the math. That's 3. We've declared ideological war 3 times. 3 people have gone into insignificance. That's all. That's all it is.
And that's why I keep getting hate voicemails from some British guy. Now I understand. I had no idea. I thought he was trying to sell me a pier somewhere. I had no idea what was going on. But now
you're like, listen, this is not the line you call to audition for the next James Bond.
I don't even know.
Or Austin Powers.
No, this isn't a dentist. I don't even know what you're talking about. The Ministry of Silly Walks? No,
right.
I don't know.
Right, Bangers and Mash. What is that? A website? I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
We are up against our last break. When we come back, I'm going to tell a story of a young man that I happen to know. I'm fortunate enough to know, but he was involved in the attack in Afghanistan, the insider attack.
As a good guy.
As a good guy. And his stories, and I'm going to release what I can. I promise not to say certain things, but I'm going to tell you about it. It's firsthand in the room, and this young man's a hero. We'll be back in 3 here on the Sackheads Radio Show. 1 for 3, baby. If we were at baseball, we'd be nailing it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Radio.
And we're back here on the Sackheads Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the SHR Media Network. Make sure you check out shrmedia.com. Check out all of our great friends and writers and broadcasters. There are some wonderful people. The Exceptional Conservative Show, Evan Miller Report, Dr. A's Take, Dr. Randy Arrington, Rosie Dale, who's a bright young gal that's writing for us. She has an article that just went up yesterday that you really, really need to check out. So go to shrmedia.com, please. And you know, if you want to be part of SHR Media, you can email me, Sean, at shrmedia.com, SHAUN at shrmedia.com. We also accept advertising. Now, how did that sound? Did that sound good?
Dude, you nailed it. Yeah, you nailed it.
I also want to plug a friend of our show, Agador, who's always in our chat room, punditpress.com at 6:45 a.m. each Wednesday. I believe that is Central Time. Name of the show is The Unpleasant Blind Guy, which is actually an awesome name for a show.
It is, and it's an awesome name for a blind guy.
Right, absolutely. I mean, really, what better way to... It really sums it all up.
Right.
There's no question what you're getting.
No. It's like when we get older, the name of our show is going to be Crotchety Old Bastards.
So... a couple days ago, or a day and a half now, we all heard about the horrendous insider attack that took place in Afghanistan. Major General Green, a young Major General, 34 years old, was killed. 17 others wounded, and it was truly a horrific attack. It was at an Afghan military university, and a lot of American brass as well as international brass, Germans, Brits, etc. were there, and they were kind of overseeing the training that's going on for the Afghan military before we hand it over. Afghan, we don't know, they haven't released the info yet as to who he was, but he was a man in an Afghan uniform, came in with a AK-47, fully automatic, and opened up. As always, there is a contingency of protection detail, sometimes referred to as guardian angels, that are in the room with the command staff, protecting them. As it was, I got a phone call last night at about 11 o'clock, or a message from a friend of mine who said, something happened to our friend Will. It's on Facebook, check it out. So I ended up checking out the story and heard that he was shot 4 times. I knew that he was deployed over there. I didn't put it together with the same incident right off the bat. So I called his cousin, who I'm also friends with, and got the inside story. And come to find out, Will was on the protection detail. And he, when the shots rang out, he went to his closest person that he was protecting, which was a British colonel, and ended up getting shot 4 times, 10 total. His armor absorbed 6 rounds from an AK-47, and he absorbed the other 4. It's very personal to me. Will was actually one of the young men that worked for me for a few years. Great young man. He'd just gotten out. He was in the reserves, or the Guard, rather. Just got out of boot camp when he came to work for me. Really bright young kid. I mean, we used to call him a beast, because when it was time to work, he worked hard. Gave 110% no matter what task you assigned him. Really did everything with a sense of duty and a sense of honor. He is a miraculous human being before this, and he's a miraculous human being now. He is stable. He is expected to survive. I was able to reach out to him earlier today on a messaging service. I won't say which one because I promised him that I won't release a lot of the information. I asked him real quick what happened. He said, we were standing there, I had my eyes on my primary, the person he's protecting. And when it felt like he got dead arm, somebody hit him really hard in the arm. He hit the ground. When he looked, you could see that the colonel, the British colonel, was uncovered, and he wasn't wearing armor as much as the protection detail was. He immediately threw himself in front of the British colonel to protect him and shield him from the attackers' fire. He got off a couple rounds with his primary weapon, his rifle. There was a malfunction with his weapon. He transitioned to a sidearm, and he was able to return fire. It's unknown if his fire hit the target. That'll all be determined another time. But he was hit, again, a total of 13 times, he said, and is expected to survive. I know he has a shattered femur and some other injuries. And he actually gave huge credit to the British colonel, because after the attack was neutralized, the attacker, the British colonel immediately began putting tourniquets on Will to stop and control the bleeding, as he had a couple severe bleeding wounds, as you can imagine. So, for me, it really hit home, and we on the show talk all the time about the brave men and women in uniform, that what they do for this country, and the service that they provide. And a lot of times I think we in this country forget that what happens over there does affect us at home. My heart sunk last night when I got this news, because the initial news, I didn't know if he was okay or not. And it mattered, but it didn't. It was the fact that it was a young man that I had the privilege of mentoring for a few years. Really close to me, really good kid who was caught in the middle of all this. And he's young. I won't give out his specific age, but he doesn't get a discount on his car insurance. Yet. And essentially he risked his life and continued to risk his life until he could physically perform no longer. Unfortunately, the threat was neutralized. He did give me some other information that as time goes on and I'm able to release it, I will. He did agree to come on the show when he's on the mend, and he's allowed to. He is still in the military. There are certain things that he has to abide by, and we absolutely respect the classified aspect of that, and we don't want to push any issues, nor do we want to get him in trouble. But he will be on the show, and you look at it, I look at it this way. Here's a young man who's more than 10 years my junior that now I look up to and admire. And I was talking with my son last night, and when all this happened, he was in the room, and I kind of asked what happened, and I was explaining it to him. And I showed him a picture of our friend, and I said, he's a hero. And my son immediately said, I want to be just like him. And it really, to me, that was an amazing moment. And I told Will that story, and he laughed. And he said, he downplays the whole thing, which is even more amazing. He's like, hey, I was just doing my job. I wish I could have done more. There were 17 other injured, as well as the major general that was killed. And that's what he said. I wish I could have done more. I did what I was able to do. I did my job. I'm not at all mad. I don't think that I did anything wrong as far as procedure-wise. He said he gave it his all. He immediately went to his training, which kicked in because he went into adrenaline mode, and did a hell of a job, more than I could ever imagine. That's a situation where you get what's called fight or flight, and you never know. But Will, I could have told you 4 years ago, when I first met the kid, what he would have done. He's always had that mentality. But he truly is a hero, and it's one of the, one of the good that came out of tragedy, is that this young man that I know did an amazing job. So, it makes you want to hold your loved ones a little bit more, and it makes you appreciate our men and women overseas and at home that protect us a little bit more. And it makes me proud as an American, and to be able to call him a friend. So I wanted to share that story. Will wants to send all of his love. I know his family is going to listen tonight. And he wants to send all of his love to his family and friends and let them know that he's doing all right. He's stable. He's on the road to recovery. He's got a couple stops medically to make before he comes back stateside. You're probably going to see him getting an award from the president. We may send him the Sackheads Award of Awesomeness, which will probably involve a bottle of whiskey and a couple shot glasses. But, and he's downplaying the whole thing. He doesn't think he deserves any accolades, and I think that's the coolest part of this story, is just that's the person he is. So I appreciate you giving me the time to share that story.
No, I mean, anytime we have a hero story, particularly somebody who's a friend of one of ours, a friend of yours, in this case, a friend of the show's, a patriot. Of course, we're gonna pay him respect and honor, and our prayers are with him, as well as with his family, and we wish him a speedy recovery for a true American hero. This brings up a point, and the Major General, the United States General who was killed, was Major General Harold Green, and he is the highest-ranking United States officer to be killed in combat since 1970, during the Vietnam War. And it brings about the question begs to be answered is are we pulling out too soon? Are we pulling out of the Middle East, Afghanistan? Are we washing our hands too soon? Mm-hmm. Because even though we're on our way out, these types of attacks are obviously still being planned. They're still being executed. This was a planned attack against a group of general officers and a group of high-ranking officials. So it's a tactic that our country has used going back to the Revolutionary War times, right? We had certain people targeting the high-ranking officers in the field.
It's an age-old tactic.
So it's
why World War II, a lot of the American officers didn't wear any insignia.
It didn't wear ranks, and even in Vietnam as well. Also, right? They didn't salute, the troops didn't salute them in the field, and whatnot. So, is this another example, or is this the result of our country's failing policies in that region? Look, I would argue it is, and I'm not trying to make this into a political thing because it's a horrible tragedy. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Major General Green, as well as others killed in the attack, as well as your friend and everybody. But is this something that could have been avoided?
Absolutely, it begs the question. You look at what happened with Iraq. There was that rush to move out, a political move, as we've discussed before. We have to get out they had to get out for political reasons. They wanted to make it look good. Mm-hmm. He wanted to end that war. He wanted to be the president who got us out of that war and out of that quagmire. And, now you look at where Iraq is. Afghanistan, I don't think is as stable as Iraq was when we left, albeit early, but I don't think Afghanistan is that stable right now, and I don't think it's the right time. Listen, whether you agree to a war or you don't agree to a war, I don't believe that we should go in to say that we're going to do a job and then bow out early because it's either too tough or politics demand it.
Look, Josh Earnest, the press secretary, White House press secretary, said basically, hey, this is a reminder of the service and sacrifice that our military folks make, essentially. But he goes on to say that we've made tremendous progress in disrupting, dismantling, and defeating al-Qaeda operations, and says that we're making progress in, quote, winding down U.S. involvement in that conflict. Are we really? If we're having attacks against general officers and having general officers killed in action and having a group of high-ranking officials who are all together become attacked, successfully attacked, I might add, are we really having progress in winding down? I mean, I guess maybe we're having progress in the actual act of winding down, but it's not a good exit. It's not a tactical exit, right?
No, it's not at all.
This isn't a tactical retreat. It's not a win.
No,
I don't
not even
think.
close to a win. Listen,
what is it? It's unfinished business. It's we were here, we screwed around. Yeah, we were able to make a little bit of difference, I guess, maybe, but we're punching out.
Yes,
is what this is.
Yeah, no, it's what it is. It's almost like it's too tough, and it's almost one of those things that it's, you know what, the American people are sick of seeing the bloodshed, and I don't disagree, but I still don't think that we go back against what we set out to do. And it's always hard. I understand when one president starts something, you have to come in and finish it. I don't envy that position for this president or any president. But whether you would agree or disagree with the reasoning, you have to do it in a way that leaves it better than it was, because essentially what you're doing is dumping on the people that sacrificed over there. If nothing else, all the money in the world doesn't matter. The people that sacrificed for the cause that their country called upon them to do left some of them their lives, their souls, body parts. I mean, horrible, horrible things. And when you step away and you let it fall apart, look at Iraq, what you're saying is that your sacrifice was for nothing. And I don't think that's how we should treat our men and women in uniform that make that sacrifice. Nor do I think the international community should see America as a country that jumps out of something because it's too difficult and or not popular. Not everything popular, or not everything has to be popular. And that's something that we lose. Everything's so
sometimes
emotional.
The right thing is not popular.
Exactly.
And that's becoming more and more the case nowadays. That's
Yes.
becoming increasingly so.
Yes.
And you can agree or disagree with the war and how it was conducted or how we got started in there. The point is that we're there, and if we're going to depart, we need to do so with a clear and precise exit strategy after we've attained specific objectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not just because.
And
not just because it was part of a campaign promise, so now I have to fulfill it and I have to get us out.
Right.
Look, I'm the guy that got us out.
Well, and you don't, and that shows you too, though. You don't make a campaign promise on something you know nothing about, and you can't go in and say, "I'll get us out of these 2 wars, no matter what," before you know the facts that are involved. And Iraq is, and like everyone in the chat room saying right now, look at Vietnam, look at Korea, look at Iraq. Look at what was left behind in a way when we kind of jumped out too early. And I don't want to see that mistake made again. It's horrible that our men and women are over there fighting. It's horrible for their families. It's horrible for the morale back home in a lot of ways. We are sick and tired of seeing war in this country. I can agree with that. I don't like hearing about American soldiers killed in battle. No more do I like hearing about American children killed on the streets of America. But you need to go out and be successful, and you need to stick with the plans, be successful. And a lot of times, something that this president doesn't do is listen to the people in charge. Listen to the military personnel, the ones who really know how to get it done, and follow suit. Don't go against it, or don't replace them with people that say what you want. We talked earlier about, we were having a discussion, and it said, would you rather have someone who works for you that's a like mind, does whatever you're told, or somebody that's a thinker and knows how to do the job that you don't necessarily agree with, but you know the job's going to get done right. And I say the latter. I'd rather have somebody who I butt heads with, but I know is competent and does the right thing.
Yep.
And you
funny,
know
we were
what?
just having this discussion a little bit earlier tonight.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is I've worked with people like that, and the success that comes out of that, even on a small level like I'm talking about, 40, 50-person organization, the success that comes out of that is always immense because you take the best ideas from all around the table, you put it together, and go. Versus everyone thinks exactly like the boss wants, so if the boss is failing, everyone's failing with them. They're going down with the ship no matter what. They're not trying to think, well, there's water coming in, what do we do? We're just sinking. Well, I'd like to get a bucket and try bailing. Nope, we're sinking.
Right.
It's a very small hole, and we're in a canoe. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So I think that's something that we really need to look long and hard at right now, especially with Afghanistan.
We should have ended on a different note. Because that was deep.
It was
we had a lot of fun, like in the early part of the show, and even the segment right before.
We did it reversed.
And then we just went deep. Listen, I'm gonna bring it up a little bit. Have you seen or read or heard about the ship that was unearthed while they were
at the Trade Center?
Yes,
I have.
You see, they solved the mystery.
No.
Yes, they did. So that's a positive note. Remember when you wouldn't show me the post for a minute?
Yeah, that was a positive note, too.
And that's why we're waiting.
Was it History of the World, Mel Brooks?
Mel Brooks.
Now let's end this meeting on a high note. Good job.
Was that History of the World or Blazing Saddles? I don't know.
I think it was History of the World because
same movie, but just as funny.
No, it's not the same movie.
I know.
It's totally different movie.
It's totally different with the same kind of movie. The jig is up.
Ag
and
is
gone.
will you explain the ship thing at the Trade Center? Ag is asking about the ship that was unearthed.
Ag, for you, I will. For
Awesome.
Sean, take your headphones off.
Oh, okay, done.
So the ship was discovered in 2010, and they excavated it, and they started trying to figure out where this thing came from. And they were able to analyze the rings in the wood itself, the ring patterns. And what they found was that the ship likely was built in 1773 in Philadelphia. And the way they narrowed this down was that it was the same type of oak, the white oak, that grew in that area as indigenous.
Sorry, Ken, it has to be white oak.
To that area. Well, yeah, it was 1773. Hello. And it also was used to build parts of Independence Hall, according to the report. They were able to also match those ring patterns to living trees in Philadelphia around the same time that Philadelphia was actually making ships. Huge shipbuilding industry there. They went on to study the keel of the ship and kind of the lay of the keel and how it was, and they found that the keel of the ship was made of hickory, which grows in the eastern U.S. and also parts of Asia or whatnot. So since they said, well, it's buried here, it's probably not the Asian one. Therefore, this is it. So what they believe happened
made in China.
Yeah, what they believe happened to it is that once the ship was done in its service along the Atlantic and the Caribbean or whatever, in 1797 there was a landfill at that spot that was used to extend the shoreline of Manhattan. And so they believe that the ship, after its service, was
sunk to fill,
put in this landfill, and
that was, it's so funny. A lot of people don't realize
is the theory, but that's kind of the history of the ship. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Manhattan, Boston's the same way. Instead of building a bridge or something to that effect, they just turned around and filled landfill and made it a lot bigger. If you look at maps of both Boston and Manhattan Island, it was a lot smaller 200 years ago, and they eventually said, we need more space.
We need to make this bigger. They basically did what Lex Luthor did with the crystals, right?
Yes, absolutely. They made it bigger.
This didn't kill like billions of people. It killed millions of people. Billions!
Well, I appreciate that. That was a great story. I'm glad you followed up on that. I did see that they found it. I didn't see where. Now, the question is what do they do with it? I think it should be somehow, if they can, make it part of that little park area at the World Trade Center. They're moving things around and everything. I wonder if there's a way to fit that in.
You can check out pictures of it if you go to www.livescience.com. 4705 photos shipwreck under World Trade Center. Just search it. But you can actually get some of the photos, and they actually have the ring patterns of some of the oak and the keel of the ship. So some interesting photos.
That's pretty amazing. Hey, you know what? We did end it on a high note.
See, that's a positive, right?
Dude, you did it. You found a way to save it. I mean, the story itself is amazing, but you brought it just right. And you know what? I appreciate that.
So I found the pictures on Live Science. I found the story on Fox, foxnews.com. So I had to find some way to end this. I had to find some little nugget in there to talk about because, man.
I know, it was a rough week.
I wanted to start my 40 for a second there, man. That was pretty bad.
Oh, man. Well, my friend, thank you so much for a great show.
Excellent show, sir.
I really appreciate it. Thanks to Not So Liberal Jake for popping in and saying hi.
Absolutely.
A great friend of the show. We always love it when he comes by.
Yep.
On the mic or off the mic. He always brings levity and happiness into the room.
And he brought whiskey tonight, of which
I said levity.
Of which he did share
I meant
a couple
libation.
sips for
Sorry,
me, so thank you, sir.
I meant libation.
You meant libation. Or gyration, because he does that too sometimes, and he did when he came in.
After enough libation, there's gyration. That's just the way it goes. We will see you next Wednesday night here on the SHR Media Network. Make sure you tune in at 4 p.m. tomorrow for the Evan Miller Report right here on the SHR Media Network.
I don't know if I will be back from assignment next week.
You are on assignment. We'll try to make it happen. We'll try.
We're going to try to make that happen. I'll be on assignment.
Great show. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone in chat. Check us all out on shrmedia.com. Follow us on Twitter and on Facebook.
I do want to say one thing.
What?
It feels like home since Rooster's back.
I'll tell you what.
It has not been the same. Like, I didn't make any old jokes tonight. So, Rooster, I said, Rooster, I'm sorry for not making any old jokes. But I feel complete tonight. I was actually in a better mood. I feel complete when Rooster's with us. So, welcome back, sir.
One of our dear friends of the show, a longtime friend and a great partner. Thank you so much, Rooster. We will see you all next week. Thanks, everyone in the chat. Make sure you check out Ag's show. It's going to be a great show. And Kel as well on BTR. Check them all out. Talk to you soon. Good night.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying calf was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News.